Hey guys, Brett Weiss here. Welcome to another video. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. It is super helpful. If you like retro gaming, you came to the right place. I hope you've been enjoying my Mount Rushmore series of videos on the 4 most iconic games for particular game consoles. Today, I'm doing a console I know a lot of you guys are super passionate about, the TurboGrafx-16. It's an amazing console. Now remember, when I'm doing these videos, it has to meet 4 criteria each game. I'm doing the 4 most iconic games for each console. They have to be iconic, famous, great, and emblematic of the console. What games do you think of when you think of the TurboGrafx-16? I'm going to give you the 4 that I associate most closely with the console. The ones that are famous, iconic, great, and emblematic of the console. Let's get to it. All right, guys, we can only start off with one game, and you know what that is, Bonk's Adventure, one of the all-time great side-scrolling platformers. It's got humor, action, fun. It features the console's mascot, Bonk, a caveman using his head as a weapon, which is often very amusing. Bonk is the closest thing that the TurboGrafx has to Sonic and Mario, as you well know. The game is set in a prehistoric environment with unique, whimsical levels. It's just emblematic of the TurboGrafx. Like I've told you guys many times, iconic, famous, great, emblematic of the console. There's no more game emblematic with any console than Bonk's Adventure is with the TurboGrafx. Bonk climbs cliffs with his teeth. He eats meat to power up. Humorous stuff, guys. Not all platformers are funny. Now, there's a lot of cute, whimsical platformers from this era, but not all of them are genuinely funny, and Bonk's Adventure definitely is. Now, I got a couple of anecdotes for you guys about this game. First of all, the good, and next I'll go with the bad. That incredibly boxed copy of the TurboGrafx, very hard to find today, kind of valuable. I found this sucker for $1 at a garage sale. I swear to God, I was walking up to a garage sale sometime in early to mid 2000s, and there was a TurboGrafx on the driveway, just kind of sitting randomly. The rest of the garage sale was in the garage and right outside the garage sale, and over here on the driveway was a TurboGrafx, this one in the box. Now the system is still in there. The one I use is over there, one I got just randomly at a garage sale or a thrift store, I don't even remember where, but it's just the console and some games and controllers and stuff. Not the box like this copy that was $1. So I just said, hey, I didn't even know it was in the sale because it was so far away from all the other stuff. I thought maybe, I don't know what I thought. Maybe, who knows? Why was a game console sitting on the driveway? It seemed so random when everything else was over there, and I just said, how much is this? $1. Sold. They could have said, you know, back in those days, I mean, they could have gotten, I don't know, 40, 50 bucks for it. I don't know, at least 20, $1. Oh my goodness, swing. Anyway, I grabbed that sucker up fast. So back in the day, 91, I got a Sega Genesis. My best friend's brother got a TurboGrafx-16, which I thought was incredibly cool because I could play his TurboGrafx and I had my Sega Genesis, so I got to play several TurboGrafx games back in the day, including, of course, Bonk's Adventure. Now, what did my friend's brother do with his TurboGrafx when he got tired of playing it, when he no longer wanted to play anymore or moved on to other games or whatever? Did he donate it to a thrift store? Now, that would have been all right, you know, because you're doing a good thing, you know, you're making some money for this thrift store that hopefully has, you know, some kind of charity attached to it. You're giving, you know, a gamer a chance to have the system and play these games, TurboGrafx. No, he threw it away. Tragic. And I was so bummed because I was like, dude, you know I collect video games. What are you doing? Anyway, that was my friend's brother. So if it had been actually my friend, he probably would have just given it to me. But my friend's brother, at this point, I wasn't seeing him that often. You know, either one of them, we were still friends, but we didn't hang out all the time like we did when we were younger. But anyway, threw it away, which I just thought was crazy. Anyway, let's get back to positivity. Iconic games for the TurboGrafx-16. Next up is R-Type. Now, R-Type is already an iconic game. Now, these first two, for me, were fairly easy, Bonk's Adventure and R-Type. The next two were tougher choices because there were some real close that could have, you know, you'll feel differently. Let me know in the comments where I'm going wrong here. You might feel differently about my picks. R-Type. I hope you guys know just how iconic this game is. It was super influential on the side-scrolling shooter genre. The TurboGrafx port is incredible. It's very well known for being faithful to the arcade version. It's a challenging shoot 'em up with strategic gameplay elements. It's got a great power-up system. It was praised for its difficulty and the technical prowess of the TurboGrafx-16. It looks and plays extremely well on this console. There's no two-player alternating mode, if I want to nitpick, that the arcade version has. The Master System version is good too, but I'm going to go with the TurboGrafx port in this case. It's just so amazing. In this case, the Master System version wouldn't be in a TurboGrafx Mount Rushmore, although will do a Mount Rushmore of Master System games at some point. Anyway, R-Type is a must-own, must-play for the TurboGrafx, especially for shooter fans, shoot-'em-up fans. And the arcade version was already iconic. The TurboGrafx version definitely belongs on the Mount Rushmore of TurboGrafx games. Let's get to the next two, which is going to be a little harder they were harder for me to pick, and you might disagree with them, so let's check them out. All right, guys, and looking at the TurboGrafx library and playing and replaying a lot of these games and just sort of thinking about them and processing them over the last few days, I had to go with Splatterhouse. First of all, it's absolutely great. It holds up very well as a fun beat 'em up. It's a difficult beat 'em up, but it is a lot of fun. It's a horror-themed game, notable for its graphic violence and mature content. It's a famous game. It was the first home video game to sport a parental advisory warning, which read, amusingly enough, "The horrifying theme of this game may be inappropriate for young children and cowards. Run, coward." You retro gamers may know what I'm talking about with that one. Anyway, that was pretty amusing on the packaging there. The game has gained a cult following over the years for its daring content, great gameplay, and it was really one of the earlier titles to feature graphic imagery in video games. It looks really tame now, but it still packs a wallop. It's an awesome game, I love it. It features distinctive gameplay with a variety of weapons and monstrous enemies. It's tons of fun. One reason the game made this list and why the game is still popular today is that there was a modern reimagining for the PS3 and Xbox 360. Now, Splatterhouse had a couple of sequels on the Sega Genesis, Splatterhouse 2 and 3. Those are hard to find. Splatterhouse for the TurboGrafx is hard to find. All the games on this iconic list of Mount Rushmore games for the TurboGrafx are hard to find and kind of pricey today. But I digress. Splatterhouse absolutely belongs on this list. It's a famous game. It's very well known in the gaming community and even outside of the gaming community. It's just got that great cachet. It's got a cult following and is popular. So yeah, Splatterhouse, it absolutely belongs. Next up, guys, what do you think I'm gonna pick? I'm gonna have my list of honorable mentions at the end of this video, but I've got to go with Blazing Lasers, and it just edged out several titles. One reason I'm going with Blazing Lasers is anytime you talk about the TurboGrafx to fans of the console for any length of time at all, this title almost always come up as a beloved favorite. It's an intense shoot 'em up with a variety of power-ups and weapons. It's tons of fun to play. I still play it. It holds up well. It's known for its impressive visual effects and fast-paced gameplay. No slowdown to be found. It's highly regarded for its depth, demonstration of the console's capabilities in handling dynamic shoot 'em up games. Yeah, Blazing Lasers looks and plays fantastic. It's a great sort of, if you want to show off your TurboGrafx, if you've got a collection, put the controller in somebody's hand and have them play Blazing Lasers. They'll find that it's still tons of fun and looks great. It's often cited as a favorite console for the console, as I've mentioned. And like I mentioned, I still play it on a fairly regular basis. Along with Truxton for the Genesis and Einhander for the PS1, and maybe Raiden 4 for the Xbox 360, it's one of my most played shoot 'em ups. Absolutely love me some Blazing Lasers, and it is absolutely emblematic of the TurboGrafx. I cannot think of the system without thinking about Blazing Lasers, Splatterhouse, R-Type, and of course, Bonk's Adventure. Now, I told you I was gonna get to some honorable mentions here. Galaga 90, it's an awesome sequel to Galaga, and Galaga itself is iconic, but it just didn't quite make the cut. It's a great game, and I love it. I still play it quite a bit. It's also one of my most played shoot 'em ups, but it just didn't quite make the cut. I don't think it's quite as famous or quite as emblematic of the TurboGrafx as those other games. Keith Courage and Alpha Zones, it was the pack-in title with the console. It's definitely emblematic of it, but it's just not great in my opinion. Newtopia, it's a lot like Legend of Zelda. And a lot of you guys are gonna want that to be on this list, but it didn't quite make the cut for me because I don't think Newtopia is as famous as these other titles. Partly because some of these other titles had their origins in the arcades, or they're just more well-known in general. And lastly, two awesome pinball games for the TurboGrafx. Yes, I'm talking about Alien Crush and Devil's Crush. If you've got a great pinball game on a console, you bet I'm gonna be playing it. I love these two games. They are a ton of fun. Let me know in the comments where I went wrong. What is your personal Mount Rushmore of TurboGrafx games? What 4 titles for the system do you consider iconic, great, famous, and most importantly, emblematic of the console? When you think of the TurboGrafx, what 4 games do you think of? Let me know in the comments. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for liking this video. Let me know in the comments what system you want me to cover next in my Mount Rushmore series. We will talk to you in another video. Thank you so much for liking, subscribing, and doing all the great stuff. We'll see you later.
It's me, Mario!